Not only are policies and procedures a requirement in assisted living, but they're also an extremely helpful tool in allowing you to run your business more efficiently. In today's video, we're going to get in and talk about what policies and procedures are in assisted living and why they are so important. Hi, everybody. I'm Brandon Gustafson. I own and operate two assisted living facilities, and I created this channel to help people just like you learn the ins and outs of investing in assisted living. Welcome to Assisted Living Investing. Hey, welcome back to the channel. In our last video, we talked about the importance of setting up processes, why it's important for your business to have these processes in place so you can better function as a business owner. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what are assisted living policies and procedures and why they are important for you as an assisted living facility operator and owner. So a definition of what policies and procedures are. They are a compilation of all of the processes that you intend to follow to help your business to be successful and to comply with all of the governing rules and regulations that you're going to encounter as you get into assisted living. Your policies and procedures are basically your business handbook, is what they are. I've seen a lot of different policies and procedures. They're pretty lengthy. I think one of our facilities we're up to, it's 150, 200 pages. They're very long. They hit all of the different federal regulations and all of the different state regulations. You have to have them in order to operate as a facility, but they're very lengthy and have a lot of information in there. But if you do it right, you can create this system for yourself to help you operate the way that you should be operating. So why would you do policies and procedures? Really, there's kind of two big reasons. Number one is it's a requirement to run your assisted living facility. You have to have it. The state will require you to have a policies and procedures handbook or a policies and procedure manual, and that set of policies and procedures are going to be reviewed by the state during your initial application process. And I'll talk about how you get licensed. I've talked about that in a previous video, so go ahead and watch that. And the state will often give you a detailed outline of the exact things that you need to have in your policies and procedures. They're not asking you to reinvent the wheel. They have a lot of the information that you need. They have certain requirements that you need to meet. There's often state statutes that you need to follow, and you can reference them in your policies and procedures. So the state will give that to you so that you know what needs to be in your policies and procedures. Something that is really important for you to remember, though, is just because they require something doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you need to have in your policies and procedures. You can bring in other things. You can set up your own policies. There are just a bare minimum that you need to have to meet state and federal guidelines so that you can have your license and operate your facility the way that it needs to be operated. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind. You can go and create your own policy around certain things. That's totally fine, as long as it's underneath the purview of those federal and state regulations. You just need to make sure that you are getting those in there. The state is also going to expect you to keep your policies and procedures up to date with the most current rules and regulations. So if something comes in, like COVID, you need to update your vaccination policy to match whatever the state or federal guidelines are telling you need to do with vaccination status or masks or whatever that guidance is. You need to make sure that you have a policy and procedure up to date for it, because when you have a state survey come in, they're going to be looking for those policies and procedures. So it's just something that you want to be aware of as you're doing things. You need to make sure you keep it up to date with rules and regulations. Make sure you're in the state meetings on mailing this from the state so that you know what the most current rules and regulations are, so that you can then update your policies and procedures to match that information. It's a lot of work up front. It's a lot easier to maintain it once you have things, and then just being in those meetings is going to allow you to keep those policies and procedures up to date and get what you need inside of those policies and procedures. When you have a state survey, the surveyor is going to come into your facility, and they will nearly always ask to see certain policies and procedures during their visit. So they're going to come in and they're going to just say, and you won't know what one they are, I want to see your vaccination policy and your policy on hiring people and your policy on food prep. And then you have to go to your policy and procedure book, pull out those policies and procedures, and hand them over so the surveyor can then look at them. So that's the important part of keeping things kind of in a good spot where you can kind of track everything. You have it in a way that you can update it, and then it's very accessible and giving to somebody so that they can then do the updates that they need to do. Now, on top of having your policies and procedures actually written and in a handbook and accessible, you need to also make sure that you are following your policies and procedures. You can't just like write something because that's what the state told you had to write. You need to actually do the thing that you have said that you're going to do. And the state will look at that when they're doing their surveys to make sure that you are following the policy and the procedure. So if you have a policy that says we have a spot for a corner in the house where the residents can get information on the ombudsman and some of these other detailed information, you better have that spot in the house or else you'll get dinged from it from the state surveyor. So you want to make sure you have that. Something that we've also found to be really effective, and we're working on modernizing this right now, is have your policies and procedures in a handbook, put them in binders. Have a binder for residents, you have a binder for food, you have a binder for safety, you have a few different binders that have these different policies and procedures in them. Create digital versions of them as well. It's a lot easier to maintain them, keep them up to date, and then you just print off the page to pull out the old policy and procedure, put it in the new one, and you also have this digital version. We use it on a tablet that our staff can go in and reference if they needed to. They could search for it. It just makes it a little bit easier to find some of those pieces of information if they have a question, rather than trying to go and find the right binder and everything. Make it digitally accessible for your staff in case they need to reference or have a question about a certain policy and procedure that you have. Now, the second reason that you would have policies and procedures is it's going to allow you to run your facility, your business, a little bit more effectively and efficiently. So this is just really good practice for you as a business owner, regardless of if you are working in assisted living or not. Having policies and procedures and developing these types of plans is going to be a good idea for you as a business owner, so that you can just be more effective and efficient with your work, and it allows your staff to know what needs to be done. This is one of the big pluses of working in a franchise. They should have those policies and procedures written out, and then you're just kind of following them because they've already built them. So you don't have to put in all the work up front to get it done. So if you're joining one of these locations that does franchising for assisted living, they're going to have a lot of the policies and procedures in place already. They're going to have a lot of that information, which is great for you. You don't have to build it up by yourself. It's going to be largely there already for you. But you can share your policies and procedures with employees so that they know how to handle certain situations. That's how it really helps you be more effective and efficient. We're implementing a process in our training with our new employees so that they know where the policies and procedures are, and reviewing certain policies and procedures that are really important that they're going to encounter frequently. We're putting that into our staff training so that they know how to interact, how to handle those types of situations as they come up, because there are going to be situations that they just don't know what to do. And we're hoping that as we build in this training process with our staff, that it's going to allow them to know what they need to do to handle a certain situation. I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the video, but you can implement and create these different policies and procedures that are going to help you understand better processes or create better processes for doing things like hiring people or bringing in a new resident into the house. We are creating mapping tools that are going to allow us to do that, so that our administrator, they can go in and they look at the mapping tool and say, okay, this is what I need to do. If we ever had to bring in a new administrator, the mapping tool is there. They can follow the process. If we want to expand our portfolio and get more facilities, we have this policy and procedure in place, and it's going to allow us to kind of, build things out and scale a little bit better because all of that is in there. It really helps us streamline that process. And it's going to do that for you as well, so that you don't have to try to remember, so that you or your administrator or any other staff member, they don't have to try to remember how to do something every single time it comes around. You might go 6 to 12 months between getting new residents just because you have a good solid resident base and nobody's passed away or needed to go to a nursing home or anything like that. And so you don't have to make any changes. And then all of a sudden you've got to bring in 3 or 4 new residents. but you haven't done it for 6 to 12 months, you're not going to remember how you did things previously. And so documenting that process is going to just allow you to remember, oh yeah, this is what I did. This is how I did it. This is the process that we go through. This is how I get the information on Medicaid, or how I get the banking information for our residents. This is the form that I need to fill out. This is the lease. It just has all of that in there. Very simple, very easy to follow. And you are just kind of building that out. So it just makes it a lot easier for you down the line. Another important part about policies and procedures is it's going to help add some value to your business. If you ever get to the point where you want to sell it down the road, having good policies and procedures in place, those really good processes that are there, it's really hard to find that. Having looked for several different opportunities to purchase a facility in the past, it just doesn't really exist. And so the more that you're able to do that, the more value your business is going to have, because you could sell those processes, those policies and procedures that are up to date to a buyer, and it's just going to add value to it because they're not coming in completely blind. You could also probably build in something where you're kind of act as a consultant for the first 6-12 months or whatever, so that you could also get a cut, or you could work something out, negotiate something in the pricing structure of the facility as you're purchasing it from them, to help them just transition and be successful in the industry, which is really what we all want. As much as there's competition and things like that, we want everybody to be successful, because the population we're trying to help, we want to help them out, and having good policies and procedures and processes in place is what's going to allow us to do that. And so the more that you can structure these things to have it be more of a kind of a turnkey type of a business, the higher people are going to be willing to pay top dollar for it. You have a higher functioning business, people will pay a higher dollar amount to have that business. So it's going to just benefit you in the long run to also have that. And then you'll also have that system in place as you try to replicate it, to grow your business, to scale your business, whatever you need to do there. You're going to have those things in place. You might have to make little tweaks if you're going to a different state, or something changes a little bit. But for the most part, everything's going to be there for you already. And so it's just going to really benefit you by doing that. How do you write policies and procedures? So now that you can see kind of that value, the value proposition there of policies and procedures, building in those processes, the next big question is, how do you go in and write all of it up? So a really great resource, especially in assisted living, is to get a checklist of the certain types of policies and procedures that you're going to need for your facility. And oftentimes, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, that can be provided by the state. So they're going to have certain requirements that they need you to meet, but those are the different policies and procedures that you need to build so that you have them available. They will give you a list of everything that you need to cover, so that you can obtain your license. And this is a really, really solid, just good, firm resource that's going to allow you to be successful as you're building out that policy and procedure for your facility. It gives you the base of what you need, the bare minimum. And then from there, you're able to kind of start building things out. So the structure of a policies and procedures is kind of twofold, and it's all in the name. First, you have a policy and the way that it's written. And this is kind of the process that you go through as you're writing out that policy and procedure. The first one is you have this policy and you write it out. It says something like this: it is the policy of this facility that we will hire top-notch talent to join our caregiving family. So that's your policy. That's the thing that we do. The second part of that is your procedure. So in here, you go back, you can watch some of my previous videos on setting up processes and I've referenced that a little bit earlier in the video. For an example, on the process of hiring new staff, I went into that quite a bit of detail in that video. So go ahead and watch that one, so you can get a feel for what that's like. But you build out this procedure. This is what I do as I'm trying to hire staff. And this is, I built this spreadsheet. I'm going to track how I do the interview processes. I'm going to track how I do all of the background checks and the vaccination status check and all of those things that I need to do at my facility. I'm going to build in this procedure on how I'm going to do that. I'm just going to write it up, just put it in writing. That's my procedure. That's all you have to do. You could also create mapping of that, and I'll probably do a video on mapping at some point in the future. So I'll link that at some point so that you can see how you might create a mapping procedure for how you're gonna hire somebody or whatever it looks like. The reason that you write your policies and procedures like this, you have your policy up here, you have your procedure down here, is so that you can find it and reference it quickly. And then you can pull it out when a surveyor comes. You can pull out that one single policy and procedure rather than trying to find, pages 35 through 37 of this huge 150-page document is what I need to grab it. You can just pull it out. It's very specific. And then it also allows you to update individual policies and procedures. If you just have one for staffing and you're changing your procedure on it, it's going to allow you to just pull that one out, create the update, put it in, and then you're good to go. And then it keeps it clean, keeps it looking nice. So that's the advantage of kind of creating your policies and procedures in this way. Each one is kind of its own standalone document, and allows you to build it out that way. So the more policies and procedures and more kind of specific you can get with those policies and procedures, the better off you're going to be, because you can be very specific and targeted in how you want to do it. You got to be a little bit careful. You don't want to have too many of them because it can get overwhelming to try to remember all of them. But you do want to be have very good, strong buckets of policies and procedures that you're going to follow in different areas, and try to be as comprehensive as you can be when you're building those out, because it's just going to allow you to be higher functioning as a facility, and meet the needs of your residents and improve your business as well. You also want to make sure that you're taking the time to build good policies and procedures. It can be extremely stressful. It's a lot of work to put that together. But it's really worth it for your business to kind of have those things in place. We've talked about it a lot today. So just make sure you do that. And then the last thing, I mentioned this earlier, you got to make sure you stick to it. You can't just write these up and spend the time to do it and then put it in a closet and forget about it and just hope that the next time a state surveyor comes out that everything is fine. You need to actually live by these different policies and procedures that you're building, because that's going to allow you to be successful. So that's the reason why you are building policies and procedures, how you kind of do them. Really good, solid overview. I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, make sure you smash that like button. Let the world know that this is a really good video on what policies and procedures are in assisted living, because it's a really big part of policies and procedures. And gaining the knowledge about policies and procedures is just going to help you be more successful as you're trying to run your business. In our next video, we're going to get in, should you pay for a policies and procedures handbook? So we talked a lot about today how you can write them and do certain things. You can actually buy them. So I'm going to get into a little bit of how you can do that, should you pay for them, and why you might consider that. So make sure you go and hop over to that video and let me know what you think. I'm going to say this again. If you are interested in learning more about investing in assisted living, make sure you visit me on assistedlivinginvesting.net. I've got some free resources over there, and you can also set up a call with me and we can kind of chat through the process of how you might go about doing your own policies and procedures for your facility. And remember, it doesn't take a lot, just a little bit. Just keep making progress step by step by step. If you do and you're consistent, you're diligent in consistently doing things, I promise you that you will be successful. Thanks for watching and have a great day.